welcome to the freshman edition of JTV. This episode has been created by the class of 2023. I'm your anchor, Natan.
And I'm your anchor, Mally. We've got a great new episode lined up for you guys this week. To get things started, let's go to Shauna Skovalski to see what sheltering is like in her house.
Get up. Come on. Let's go. Get up. Get up. I said get up. Get up. Get up, Phi. Listen, get up. Let's go. Get up. If you hit me one more time, I swear to God. Hey guys, I'm Shauna, and today's video is about
sibling time in quarantine.
Good morning, Phi. Phi, I need to get something from the printer. Hello?
Sean, I'm gonna make breakfast. Do you want any?
No, I'm good.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm. I'm good. Phi, the printer. I need it. Sean, I'm in a meeting. I did it. The assignment from last night, I finished it. I submitted it to Google Classroom. Yeah, I know. That's why I was talking about the imagery and the metaphors, because otherwise we wouldn't know what's happening. It just describes it differently. Show, not tell. Just like Mr. Rubin explained. That's why I mentioned it.
Sister?
Yes.
What you doing?
Homework. That looks really good.
Thanks.
Do you want to make me some?
Sorry, what?
Do you want to make me some of that?
This, what I asked you like 5 minutes ago if you wanted some, and if you were sure?
Yeah.
No.
No! No! Hook it up, Mo!
Thanks for watching. Stay safe. And whether or not you have a sibling, stay sane.
I don't actually have anything to say. I just wanted to push it.
Thank you, Shauna. That was very funny and very relatable. I love last week's episode with Miss David when she came on with her pet bunny. What was his name again? Oh yeah, Boba. Anyways, here's Miss David to give us a sneak peek of this week's community block.
What does this rabbit, Boba, who apparently has a fan base, what does he have to do with this week's communal gathering? I'll tell you. On Friday at noon, we will be hosting the founder of everyone's favorite neighborhood boba drink shop, Boba Guys. Ben, who's one of the founders of Boba Guys, is going to tell us the story of how he went from working for the Timbuktu Bag Company to fulfilling his dream of opening a high-quality boba drink shop, which has become one of the most popular boba drink shops in the Bay Area. So please join us Friday at noon. You'll get the calendar Zoom link, or it's already in your inbox. And Ben is also going to talk about how he's managed having to close most of his shops during the sheltering order. By the way, we will be raffling off boba drink gift cards during the assembly. So we will see you there. Boba the rabbit won't be there.
Thanks, Miss David. Looking forward to this week's community block. As everyone knows, the drama kids have been hard at work rehearsing this spring's comedy. It's been a challenge rehearsing and performing while sheltering is in place, but here's Miss Ullman to show us how it's going.
Okay, now can I say it?
Yeah, go. Hi, I'm Aoife,
Hi, I'm Aoife,
Miss Ullman's daughter,
Miss Ullman's daughter.
and here are some excerpts
Here's some excerpts
from our Seinfeld final read-through.
from our final record
Final read-through
Final read-through
of Seinfeld.
of Seinfeld.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, enjoy.
Enjoy.
Hop, a hit it to the hip hopper. You don't stop the rocker to the bang bang boogie. Say up jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie to beat. Now what you hear is not a test. I'm a rapping to the beat. And me, the groove, and my friends are gonna try to move your feet. You see, I am Wonder Mike, and I'd like to say hello to the black, to the white, the red, and the brown, to the purple and yellow. But first, I gotta bang bang, a boogie to the boogie. Say up jump the boogie to the bang bang boogie. Let's rock. You don't stop. Rock the rhythm that'll make your body rock. Well, so far you've heard my voice, but I brought two friends along. And next on the mic is my man Hank. So come on, Hank, sing that song.
Let me speak with the head librarian, because it's absurd. An overdue book from 1971? This is a joke, right? I returned the book. I remember it very vividly because I was with Cherry Becker. It's burned in my memory.
Oh, she needs a little tenderness. She needs a little understanding. She needs a little Kramer.
Did you see that homeless guy on the library steps screaming obscenities and doing this calisthenics routine?
Bookman? The library investigator's name is actually Bookman?
It's true.
That's amazing. It's like an ice cream man named Cone.
But you put on a pair of shoes when you walk into the New York Public Library, fella. You think because you're a celebrity that somehow the law doesn't apply to you, that you're above the law?
That's what the library is. A government-funded pathetic spread.
No! Tropic of Capricorn!
You have like English, geometry, social studies, and then suddenly you're like in Lord of the Flies.
It was Heyman! He had my underwear! There I was, on the steps of the 42nd Street Library, a grown man getting a wedgie.
At least it wasn't atomic.
To the black, to the white, the red, and the brown, to the purple and yellow. But first, I gotta bang bang, a boogie to the boogie. Say up jump the boogie to the bang bang boogie. Let's rock. You don't stop. Rock the rhythm that'll make your body rock. Well, so far you've heard my voice, but I brought two friends along. And next on the mic is my man Hank. So come on, Hank, sing that song.
Way to go, drama. At this point, we usually have Mr. Shapiro with his kitchen segment, but since this is the freshman edition, we thought we'd have Zoe Falls instead. Let's see what she's baking in her kitchen. Zoe?
Hi everyone, it's Zoe, and today I'm going to be making a blackberry tart. First, I'm going to start with the crust. So what you want to do first is add the dry ingredients. So I have 1.5 cups of flour that I'm going to add into Cuisinart, pinch of sugar, 1 cup of butter, and then I'm going to add the other stick of butter, 1/3 cup of water. Okay, so now I have my pie crust in a bowl, and to make it the right consistency, I'm just gonna add a little bit of flour, sprinkle it on top, and mix it in. And you can do this with your hands or with 2 spoons or whatever you prefer. And to make it easier to roll it out, you can either put this in the fridge for about 1 to 2 hours, or if you don't have that kind of time, you can put it in the freezer for about 5 to 10 minutes, which is what I'm going to do. Okay, so now I have my dough. It is out of the freezer, and I'm just gonna knead it a bit. And sometimes it can be very sticky, and just be patient with it because that's what dough does. It's very annoying. Now I'm gonna put my dough on saran wrap, and I'm gonna put 1 piece on the bottom and 1 piece on top, so it doesn't stick to the rolling pin. You can also use a bunch of flour for this, or you can use wax paper, whichever you prefer, or whichever you have. Roll it out so it's the right size for whatever pie tin you're using. Okay, and I'm gonna take the saran wrap off. Okay, and just add a bit more flour and just carefully push it against the sides. Just gonna pinch it around the edges a bit. Okay, so I'm gonna bake the crust now, and you should have your oven preheated to about 350 and bake it for about 40 minutes. And just check on it once in a while. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to the filling. It's about a 1/4 inch of water, and you want to pour in I have 2 cartons of blackberry. Okay, and with a spoon, you're gonna just mix them around. Okay, and after you mix it for a little bit, you want to add a bit of flour to kind of absorb some of the water. And if it turns pink, it's supposed to, so don't freak out about that. Okay, and depending on how sweet you want it, you might want to add just a bit of sugar. And depending on how sweet or how tart you want it, you can keep on adding sugar, or if you want it thicker, you can add more flour. So I have my pie crust ready, and now I also have the filling. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to scoop out the filling onto the pie crust. And there is my finished blackberry tart.
Thanks, Zoe. It looked incredible, and I bet your kitchen smells amazing. Sheltering in place has changed a lot in how we live our lives, but in some ways, they haven't changed much at all. Natan has created a short piece to show what happens when you are in social distance learning with siblings in the house.
Number 7, I got 42. I wasn't really sure with the acute angles. Could you explain that to me? Yeah,
Look at this dance I learned. Okay?
Sorry about that. Stop doing your TikTok dances while I'm on class, okay? There's important people on that call. You can't do this every single day. Stop it.
Okay, it's gonna start soon.
As usual, we will end our JTV segment with the DVAR Torah. We thought instead of having a young freshman do this, we'd go in the opposite direction. Rabbi Cortez.
The coronavirus epidemic and our response to it reveals many of the weaknesses in our society. To prevent the worst possible outcomes of the disease, we have to shelter in our homes. That means many people can't work. And those people who can't work are more vulnerable than they were before. How do they pay rent? Even more basically, how do they eat? Have you seen the pictures of the long lines of cars, sometimes 2 miles in length, outside food banks across the country? I have, and they break my heart. I have a friend who works at the Emergency Food Bank of Contra Costa and Solano counties, and he told me that the demand for their services has gone up 40% in the last 6 weeks. They face millions of dollars in new costs, and he doesn't know how they're going to raise the money, but they know they have to feed the people. that our fellow citizens can't go hungry. This week's Torah portion, a more, focuses in part on the cycle of the Jewish holidays. Pesach, Shavuot, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. And in the middle of the description of the holiday cycle of the Jewish calendar year, there's this incongruent verse that doesn't seem to fit. It goes, "And when you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not reap all the way to the edges of your field, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. You shall leave them for the poor and the stranger. I am the Lord your God." What is this verse doing here? Why do we talk about Peah, leaving the corners of the field unharvested, and Leket, leaving the grain that falls to the ground so it can be gleaned by the landless poor? Why is this here in the midst of this description of the ritual calendar? Maimonides in his Mishnah Torah, in the section Holidays or Festivals, writes this: "When an individual eats and drinks at a festive meal, he is obliged to give food to the stranger, the orphan, and the widow. But if one locks the door of his courtyard and eats and drinks with his wife and children, and does not give food and drink to needy people, this is not a mitzvah celebration, but rather a celebration of the stomach, and this kind of celebration is reprehensible." Maimonides reminds us that our ritual obligations are there to remind us of our social obligations, of our obligation to help those who are most in need. And here we are, locked in our houses, eating and drinking with our family, while all around us there are people who are anxious, afraid, have lost jobs, and may go hungry. Public schools have mostly closed, but they remain open for one purpose, because their hot meal programs are the only ways that children can be ensured to get some food every day. That's the level of food insecurity in our country. Those of us who are fortunate enough to have work and income or savings cannot forget those who are most in need. I began by saying that this crisis reveals the weaknesses in our society, but it also has the potential to reveal our strengths. We are all feeling extremely vulnerable now. Because this is a collective response to the crisis, we are also being reminded that we are all in this together. As a society, we rise or we fall collectively, not as individuals. I hope that when we emerge from this crisis, as I'm sure we will, that we will take those lessons with us and that we will act on them. And we can even act now. If you have the means, you can give to your local food bank to make sure that those among us who do not have enough food can eat. God forbid that some people should starve while we fight this disease. And when this is over, perhaps the empathy, the sense of interconnectedness, and the vulnerability that we have learned will remind us to go forth and to build a society that is more empathetic, more compassionate, and more just than the one we are leaving behind.
Thank you, Rabbi. Well, that about wraps up this week's edition of JTV. If anything you wish to announce for the coming weeks, please contact Mr. McDonald.
Next week's JTV video will be the sophomore edition. Good luck, sophomores. Us freshmen set the bar pretty high. See you guys next week.
Have a great week, everybody.